welcome. My name is Milan Kalal, and I'm a program manager at IDC, a market research company focused on the ICT sector. Today, I would like to talk to you about the Internet of Things. This is a domain we are focusing on for already a couple of years. And today, I would like to speak about how the Internet of Things is driving the transformation of industries and why you should be paying attention to this very important trend. This presentation will be followed by several other speeches that will go into more details of some of the interesting use cases. So you will have very nice takeaways about what Internet of Things is about and why it is important for you. In the past, we have spent a lot of time talking about the perspective, about the future. And we really like to talk about the future of IoT. We like to show big numbers. We like to talk about the fact that in the next years, IoT will be enormous. We like to talk about the fact that the world will be becoming more and more automated. Our forecast is that by the year 2021, there will be about $1.4 trillion spent in the Internet of Things. So we like to show numbers with a lot of zeros. We also like to say that, for example, by the year 2025, there will be more than 82 billion devices connected to the Internet of Things. So yes, the Internet of Things is for sure a big deal. But today, I would like to speak to you about what is happening now. Because the IoT is already present today. We don't have 82 billion devices, but there are already billions of them. And in fact, we see that IoT is emerging all around us. IoT devices are monitoring the infrastructure, the roadways, bridges, electricity infrastructure, electricity consumption. It is used for predictive maintenance, for traffic management, smart cities, smart homes, you name it. So with a little exaggeration, we can say that all sectors are either already deploying or planning to deploy some of the IoT use cases. So that's the reason I'm here today to explain you why all this is happening and why all of you should be paying attention to this new trend. So there are several factors which are driving the adoption of Internet of Things. And one of the most important one is, of course, the networks. So for the past 20 years, we have seen the evolution of mobile and mobile broadband networks. But these are networks which are designed and developed for people. And what do people want with their network connectivity? They want to watch cat videos on YouTube. So that's what we want: LTE, high speed, and high data limits, which is fine. And it is also important for the Internet of Things, because many of the IoT use cases are running on cellular networks. But IoT is much more diverse. So in the past 2 to 3 years, we have seen the evolution of networks that are being designed for the things. This is important because not every machine or device needs to be streaming multi-megabits of data per second. Many of these devices need to stream just a few bytes. Take the smoke detector. It only needs to send 1 byte of data when it detects smoke. This is something very important. Now the network capabilities also are enabling us to deploy much cheaper devices, and the cost of connectivity is really low. I'm talking about single euros per year per connected device. Very different from what you are paying with your mobile phone tariffs. So the evolution of new networks for IoT devices is very important. And in parallel to the networks, we of course have other parts rapidly maturing. Take, for example, cloud computing. So this is, of course, widely being adopted. But also the service providers are modifying their cloud computing offers so that it is tailor-made for the IoT use cases. Additionally, the hardware manufacturers, the different sensors, the modules, the kits for the makers are becoming much more cheaper and accessible. Likewise, the data. So now with those billions of devices, we are receiving huge volumes of data, so we need to process and store them. So also these technologies are very important. If we are speaking about data, then of course analytics is very critical, because you don't want just to be collecting the data, you want to be analyzing and digging the value and the intelligence that is within the data you are capturing. And then there are all these other technologies, such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive computing. They are becoming much more accessible to smaller companies, not just to the technology giants. So all this is now rapidly boosting the adoption of Internet of Things. Now, it is not just these single components, but when it is all put together, it is forming a sort of, we call it an ecosystem. So the service providers are developing an end-to-end solution that can be customized to different needs, or they are standardizing solution that can be deployed off the shelf. So this ecosystem is taking place, and in addition to the technology companies, you now have also hundreds of these startups, these small companies that are also playing with the IoT kits and thinking about what they can bring to the market. So that is important. And that is why we see that the IoT is taking off very quickly. And we now need to understand also how it will be impacting your business. So as IDC, as a research company, we run many surveys. In one of the very recent survey, just completed now, across Central and Eastern Europe, we have asked our respondents, so how how do you expect IoT will impact your company, your organization? And the results were quite interesting. So 7% actually expect that there will be no impact, that they are immune to the IoT trends. Well, fair enough. Then we have 18% who are kind of experimenting. They are not for sure. They are playing with the technology and maybe waiting to see if there will be some meaningful outcome for them. Another 18% is taking IoT more seriously from the tactical point of view. So they understand that IoT can help us solve some specific business problem, either increase efficiency of their productivity or streamline some processes, etc. Well, what is beyond that? So then we have 42% of respondents which have responded that IoT will have strategic impact on their organization. That means that they are expecting IoT will dramatically change the strategy of this organization, that it will help them to gain competitive advantage and maybe outpace their competition. And finally, we had the remaining 15% of respondents, which are the most advanced one, and they accept that IoT will have a transformational impact on their organization. That means that it will not only change what they do, but also how they do. So they will maybe deploy a completely different business model that is leveraging the IoT capabilities this technology offers. So as you can see, most of the businesses are widely convinced that IoT is something they should be paying attention to. Well, but when I think about it and think about these 15% of the most smart ones, I still think that maybe everyone should be thinking IoT is transformational for them, for their company, for their business they are in. I have one example which is very typical for how IoT is disrupting a business model that's been here for decades, the car insurance industry. Car insurance companies, what do they use today? They analyze risk based on some huge volumes of statistical demographical data. What is your age? Where do you live? What type of car do you have? And they then estimate what should be the premium you should be paying. But already now, you are able to plug in the diagnostic module into your car, which will be monitoring in real time what kind of driver you are, and the insurance company is able to do the premium on a personalized basis, not relying on any averages. So this is already happening now, and it's impacting, of course, the market significantly. I have learned recently that there is an insurance company in Estonia that is using this kind of data for their competitive advantage, because why should somebody who is using the car only during the weekend be paying the same premium for somebody who is using the car daily? So they can really offer you a very different proposal if you are their client. But this is today. What about tomorrow? How should these companies be preparing? Well, sooner or later, we will have autonomous cars on the roads. So now we won't have any demographic information anymore about the driver. So this is something that will very significantly impact the business model of car insurance companies, because maybe the autonomous cars won't be having accidents. So it is very likely that the revenues of such in this industry will go down unless they will adapt to these new trends. So that's just one example of what IoT is capable of doing with one use case, which is personalized insurance. We as IDC are trying to approach this on a more scientific way. So we have a framework which is focusing on how mature a company that is trying to integrate and deploy IoT technologies is. So we are using different layers, processes, technology, people, and vision. We have 12 criteria, and based on that, we are able to help companies navigate in this space and make them more and more advanced. So an outcome out of such a maturity assessment are then these steps where we tell our clients what they need to do basically to progress on the top. Many of companies today are using IoT rather on the ad hoc basis, so they are one of those that are still experimenting with these technologies, or they are in the second stage, they are the explorer. Of course, we would want to see most of them move to the ones that are taking IoT as a strategic tool or even as a market disruptor. Why is that? So let's again see how the transformation can be impacting something which is relevant for all of us, which is the healthcare sector. So today, or in most of the hospitals, you have a patient which is maybe a bit nervous about his health condition, so he rings a bell to alert the nurse. Of course, the nurse is somewhere busy on the hospital floor, so it takes time before she's able to visit him. Well, maybe it can be something really serious, so they need to be looking for tools, such as the EKG machine. Maybe the EKG machine is not at the place where it's supposed to be, somebody didn't bring it back, so that's another time wasted. And then maybe it's some very serious thing, so heart attack team needs to be alerted in order to save the patient's life. So all of these steps are now very, very time consuming, which does not need to be if the hospital has IoT technologies deployed. Because very easily the patient can be having sensors that automatically alert the hospital personnel about the changing health condition of this patient. They can automatically trigger a signal to the crash team to go and visit this patient, and the sensors can even prepare the elevator so it is waiting there, not wasting time, so that the patient can be accessed at the shortest possible notice. And even the pharmacy can be alerted so that there is important medication that this patient needs. Yeah, so all of this is now available. These are technologies exist, and companies need to be thinking for their own benefit what to do today. So to summarize some takeaways, There are, how to start with IoT. So there are now a huge plethora of use cases. So you need to decide for yourself what is the situation you want to deal with. Is it more internally oriented or externally oriented on the customer or on the processes? Then you need to understand what are your priorities, what you are expecting from the use cases. Is it something that should be optimizing the processes, saving you money on unexpected downtime, or is it something that is more targeted on addressing new markets or new customer groups? Very critical is, for many companies, the current divide between the IT side of the company and the OT side, where all the processes are running. Very usually there's a disconnect, and for IoT to be implemented, all these people need to be on board and have the same priorities. And then, of course, you need to stop being actually afraid to make mistakes, because it is something very new. It is for sure something that you will need to be experimenting with, testing, piloting. So start small, but have very broad ambitions about how your company can benefit with IoT. And when it starts giving results, don't be afraid to do a mass rollout and integrate it with everything you have. So for me, I want to wish you good luck on your IoT journey. I hope you will join it sooner than later, because after all, you want to be the market leaders, not the market leavers. Thank you very much.